Today we have the blessing of having the Alberts and Paul Prinkley here to give us a little summary of what's been going on with the property that was sold to them. So I invite you all to come up, and I invite the congregation to sit. If you want to use the mic, you're welcome to do so. You don't have to.
He's long-winded and a lot of hot air.
And rambles forever. I'm hoping I can not do that. So I made some notes. Us being together up here is not generally a good idea, but we're going to do our best to behave. I just want to start by saying thank you guys and how grateful Mike and Kathy and my wife Melissa, who's not here, how grateful we are to this community and this church and their willingness to sell us adjacent property to us. So the goal of the property, and most of you may know this, but the goal of the property is to build houses that offer affordable, permanent, and an integrated community to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, also known as IDD. Based how I just said that, you know why they call it IDD. Where they can live together in community. So the community is for our adult children and others, not just our two kids, but others who live in the community with some form of IDD. My son Josh, for example, is in a power wheelchair. He needs help to get him out of bed in the morning, to shower, to prepare his meals. He needs help throughout the day. Kyle, Mike and Kathy's son, is physically able to move around and do as he wants and drive his dad crazy throughout the day and pick on him, but needs assistance throughout the day in many of the same ways Josh does. They have people that'll help them every day, so day to day their needs are taken care of. What our children have expressed most over the years as you talk to other parents with kids with IDD is a desire to live in community with their peers, their friends, where they feel less isolated and more independent. Like most of us, they want to be with their peers and just live in community where they're comfortable and independent as possible. One of my other beliefs in life is that all of us are crazy, and it's just how are we crazy and how do we learn to get along together through that craziness. Your new neighbors will not be any different than all of us are. Once the homes are completed, the people that move into these homes will come with different needs and different personalities. They need extra care. But what you'll find is the world's not filled them with worldly stuff. Material possessions are not important to them. They typically are less hurried. They're typically more tolerant. And typically they're a bit more kind. They can act a bit more spoiled occasionally. But all in all, they are just fun to be around. And again, most of all, as I said before, they want to just be around others and be with anyone else that wants to engage with them in community. So like us, they want to love and they want to be loved. We're in the process of working with some land development companies right now and how to best use the property. We've had conversations with several builders. And the other component of this is of the projects is understanding exactly how the different government-sponsored programs may impact their benefits by living here. So those are all things that we're working through. I'm thankful that I'm working with Mike on this because he and Kathy have much greater detail orientation, I think is what we call it, than I do. So I'm going to step aside and let him talk about some of the work they're doing. And of course, we're glad to answer any questions.
Thanks, Paul. Paul does a great job giving a bird's eye view of the importance of what it is that we're trying to do. We refer to our kids and other people with IDD as kids still, because generally we are working with the parents, and no matter if they're 27 or 45, Kyle's 35, they're still kids in our mind, not developmentally. It's just how we have treated and how we enjoy having them in our company all the time. But there is a sad fact that as we age, and as Paul especially ages, we get to a point where there is not options available for those with IDD, with the exception of group homes or residential service centers. And the state of North Carolina has been very, very progressive and helpful in realizing that the need for independence and the desire for independent living is such a paramount need in the communities that they have really helped out with the supported services. Unfortunately, it doesn't help with the housing. And so Paul alluded to the fact that we do have some support with our children across the board. There is nothing in place for housing. And in our journey, and that's really what it was. And Paul and I felt that getting the land is the first step. Some other places feel that learning all the rules and regulations and things like that should be the first step. But we're action-oriented people, and we are so thankful for you and for your commitment to us in allowing us to purchase the property. A couple of things that we have done so far on the lot and the building side of things. The progress we've made is we've had the property surveyed. We've had multiple conversations, as Paul mentioned, with various agencies. We have been in contact with a New Hanover County Planning Department, the chief planner, who has given us insight, looked at the plot lines and things like that, and has told us initially, just from looking at that, that we can accomplish without rezoning 6 to 7 homes without a clubhouse. He said you can have a clubhouse, which is important to foster community. Then we've talked to, there's always rezoning in the option. And that's because the property out there is zoned R15. And R15 is zoned that way because it's on septic. And septic only allows a certain number of houses per acre. Now you can get it rezoned, but when you do that, you have to make other arrangements. So we've been talking to a planning engineer who's looked into our properties. He's looked into sewer hookups. He has looked into other options, different options with regards to different septics and things like that. And his idea is to basically give us an idea of what we're looking at, how many homes that we can accomplish. And one of the areas that we have been in contact with in the past is what makes an ideal size of a community. You know, you get too large, and we had felt, our group that we have put together in the past, you get over 25 people or 20 people, you kind of lose that sense of community a little bit. So we were always shooting for anything less than that. And 6 to 7 is a community, maybe a little bit smaller than we'd like, but there's other options. And so we're exploring those other options. We've also had an arborist come out to the property and walk it with us. And they talked about the best way to keep the trees in their natural habitat, to keep most of the land, the beautiful land, especially in the back lot where St. Francis was the focal point. We really want to keep a lot of that. So that was very, very helpful for us. She told us that they would wait until the fall or the winter before we start looking at clearing some of the scrub, so we can actually see what we're dealing with. And what's nice to know is they said you go out there and they will help figure out, you know, I mean, we're not talking about land clearing. We're talking about just tidying it up so we get a better idea. We've also had 3 different builders and contractors come out to the property. Included in in that is Habitat for Humanity, which I really like the idea of having a coalition with another nonprofit group. And they just do such good work. Unfortunately, we have an idea of size of home, types of homes, and it changes all the time. So those ideas are kind of out. But what the whole idea and the purpose of meeting with all these people out here and contacting them and finding out about the laws and the regulations is to get an idea of the scope and the costs of what we're looking at. And so that's what we've actually been very busy doing. The other thing we've been doing is we've been gathering information from the IDD community. Believe it or not, there is not a lot of information about housing for this population. It hasn't been utilized in the past. People just put them in residential centers, and that has not been what the state is pushing for right now. And it's also not what our kids want. Paul's son, Kyle, a whole group of people, they go to different activities. Today they'll probably be going out together. They go to the movies together, and they really enjoy being with their peers. They also enjoy being with the support staff that are with their peers. And it's a big part of their life. It's actually one thing that keeps them going. Paul mentioned the population and how not much different they are from us. Two areas that they are a little bit more evolved than us, I think, is it tends to be a very trusting community. And it also tends to be a very, not that other communities aren't loving, their loving comes from a sense of innocence. And it's unconditional any which way. And because of that, safety is a paramount concern for whatever it is that we do. And we're very aware of that. So these are the things. We've also been talking, hey, what kind of homes would you like to be? What kind of a community? So we're exploring a lot of different things. We have actually met with Kelly Crosby, who is the Director of Health and Human Services for North Carolina. That's how we know what their idea and what their plans and monetary potential assistance could be. We've been getting their idea, some rules and regulations regarding the services and the housings that are available. And that's a big deal. We're learning a lot of things that we didn't know. And it's important because it's also, we're learning and able to pass on that information to other groups and other areas. We have visited a number of sites that have types of community living that give us ideas. One is Eden Village, which houses the chronically homeless. One was in Raleigh, Durham area, which is primarily for people that don't want to be institutionalized. They have mental health, and that's their thing. And so we're getting different ideas from different places. We are also a member of the North Carolina Housing Coalition. Currently we have 21 members, and what we do is we meet every single month and we discuss everybody around the states and in other states plans for building communities for the IDD population. I'm also a member of the board for Independent Works, which is a nonprofit organization that has been around for about 6 years. And the idea was always to try and find independent housing. And it's morphed more into, at this point, okay, let's help organize. We have an advisory board put up and consisting of those with IDD to help give us ideas and things like that. We've got put together different things. So that's where we're at, and it seems like we haven't, in Paul, my estimation, doesn't feel like we've accomplished anything, because there's no building, there's no clearing, but there, in cases like this, there is a lot to it, especially when pure communities of IDD, outside of group homes, residential living places, there haven't been many guidelines that we could go by. And so we are learning a lot, because almost everybody with IDD gets some type of governmental service. And provide affordable housing and permanent housing for them requires that we make sure that they don't lose those services, because it includes all their medical care and things like that. And so it's been a journey, and I'm not saying that we're not disappointed. We have such optimism that we would like to just do it. But unfortunately, the government, federal, state, and local governments saying, you can't do it that way. You know, you gotta do this, you gotta go through them, you gotta make sure. So right now, our next step is we're doing soil sample on the property, because that's gonna address our next biggest concern, which is sewer hookup versus septic hookup, which is also gonna affect how many homes. But we still expect to keep you abreast of the progress that we make, and we welcome any questions and concerns you might have.
I would ask that at lunch that folks will then have a period of time to ask questions of you. Thank you so much for being here and giving us an update. So much potential, and I know the parish look forward to a partnership too. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So how do I tie this all together in a reflection that talks about the gospel? Well, to start off with the Gospel of Matthew, we read those famous words where Jesus says, "Who will feed me? Who will clothe me? Who will care for me?" And I would say the property formal name is the Legacy of Myrtle Grove. That's your title, is my understanding. I would say that this organization has stepped up to the plate to do so. We're also told in Isaiah, "Whom can I send?" And the answer is, "Send me." And so I look forward to this partnership that I see us already established with the purchase of the land. The other piece that really comes to me is a quote from St. Francis of Assisi. "Start by doing what's necessary, then what's possible, and suddenly you're doing the impossible." And I believe the legacy of Myrtle Grove and us together are stepping out in faith, and we're doing the impossible. So thank you so very much for your update. Now to the gospel. Jesus says, "Who do you think I am?" And I like to think that when we're talking about names, those names say something about us. Bread of life, Emmanuel, I am. They all say something about Jesus. And I would like to say that same question, "Who do you think I am?" in reference to the legacy, tells us something about the legacy. And we have now learned a little bit more about our partners next door. But I wonder if Mark chose to use those words, "Who do you think I am?" as a means of introduction. Hi, I'm Anne. Someone else might say, "Hi, I'm Olivia." Just by saying those few words, we are now connected in relationship. And I look forward to a deeper relationship with the legacy in the months and weeks ahead. We will grow deeper. We intend to support you. And we look forward to more of these conversations in the future. We will all, both together, do the impossible in faith. Thanks be to God. Amen.